Hi. So this video is about a new trend report that I'm writing. You can see some of the details in the background. It's broadly about AI at work. I write and do videos about future of work, and so it's fitting that AI is covered since it'll have such huge ramifications for work in the future. Please subscribe and share this video if you like it, and come back for more because I'll be covering this. So the first thing to walk through is this chart, which really just plots um, technology change over the years. First point to make is that generally it's exponential, but it's becoming more and more exponential. And to prove that, you just have to look at ChatGPT and the time it's taken to reach 100 million users compared to technologies and platforms like Facebook, the internet, mobile. So it's the curve is getting steeper, faster. The thing is, this most often relates to consumer adoption of technology. In the enterprise, where it's much harder to manage technology adoption because of the complexity of the enterprise, also because organizations just change differently, logarithmically. There's just so much more at play in organizations: risk, governance, security, etc. So generally companies lag, but the innovative companies out there, the early adopters, keep up with strategies that include engaged employees, which is really at the heart of this talk that I'm giving here. And really, I want to just mention one of the aspects. There are many. The Microsoft platform, Microsoft Viva, which is an employee experience platform, plays a key role, and it's not just about technology, but also behaviors in enabling AI adoption and measurement. And I'm going to cover that in more detail. So that's the first thing to say. Again, just coming back to this point, when you're looking at business transformation, which AI is driving, undisputedly, there's some critical success factors, right? And often, companies think about strategy and execution, the obvious one, which is fundamental. You have to have it; it's foundational. And then technology and process. These days, when every company is a tech company, technology plays a role in business transformation, digitization, etc. And then so too business processes. But it's the one in the middle that I want to focus on, that puts humans at the center, culture and people. And you'll see that that's what I'll go through predominantly in the next couple of slides. So just in terms of some of those building blocks, the points 1 and 2 on the previous slide, again, not going through everything, but this is fundamental. You have to be thinking about this in terms of strategy and execution. What are you trying to do? Optimize or grow, so reduce costs or grow revenue. Besides these things, you have to make a decision about those, and it's hard to do them both. And you can, but you have to choose sometimes. You have to also be thinking about things like enablement, especially around AI, and what's required there is upskilling, and then just about how is your organization geared in terms of effectively driving or managing the transformation. And this often comes down to a question of productivity. So those are the strategy and execution considerations or blocks. And then from the technology and process side of things, so ultimately about operating model, you need to be thinking about your business capabilities, bringing things back always to the business. You'll see I'll cover that in more detail. Governance and security, especially around technology, but in general, the value streams and where they sit and which are the important ones that you need to underpin and enhance with AI, and then the resources that you have to put together in the company. These are important things to think about before you get to and not necessarily before, but alongside the human side of things, which is where, as I say, platforms like Microsoft Viva, but it goes way beyond technology, are considered, right? So these are the kinds of things that can accelerate your AI transformation. Certainly, if you ignore them, you're not going to get very far because, as you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast. But yeah, just to cover some of the pillars, right? And it's split into the adoption side of things and the measurement side of things. And the order is quite intentional. I mean, you can only get to measurement of adoption of AI technologies once you've tried to drive adoption. And that requires lots and lots of things. These are just some of them, right? Broken down into communications and communities. How do you create awareness about the need for change, what the process is going to be, who's leading in that, how do you identify leaders, champions, setting goals and making them clear to the organization, and then how do you, from a top-down point of view per se, and then from a bottom-up point of view, how do you leverage communities of practice who are sharing knowledge and expertise and driving others to grow and change. So that's the first thing to think about. Then on the skilling side of things, it's about identifying the knowledge gaps that you're going to have to make up, and how do you drive upskilling in terms of these gaps, and then configure learning platforms and experiences and learning paths to drive the right upskilling, and then create knowledge bases around, for example, here Copilot for Microsoft 365, which you'll see also plays a key role, although there are other AI technologies. Last but not least, as I say, once you've driven the adoption, you need to be able to measure and understand how the organization is, first of all, ready for more adoption, then how they're using it, and what are the adoption trends. You need to quantify the productivity gains and others, and also understand user sentiment. Human beings are at the heart of this, so you need to understand how they're feeling about the transformation at every step of the way, and then creating custom views with additional business context. For instance, how is your transformation impacting revenue drivers, things like that. So here's just a little more detail on some of those pillars and the specific apps within the platform of Microsoft Viva. I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but you can see that, as I mentioned earlier, we've kind of reoriented the Viva platform to support AI adoption and measurement. And we've got things like Viva Insights, which is what tracks usage and adoption of users in terms of productivity, which now is reoriented to understand how they're using Copilot, and what impact that has on behaviors and on productivity. And then there's surveys, trying to get that user sentiment that I mentioned. Viva Goals is a great way. It's an OKR app to capture your goals for the transformation and to track against them. Amplifies the comms side of things, where you can consolidate and simplify your communications to different channels inside and measure the responses of your campaigns. Viva Engage is the community platform where you, as I say, drive community and support the transformation from the bottom up. And then Copilot Academies, where the upskilling takes place. So moving on, the other thing that you need is good transformation planning. You have to have a good plan in place. This is not a plan per se. This is just an approach to planning. It fulfills the three essentials that I've listed at the top left. The point is that you can bring your own planning approach as long as it fulfills these essentials, that it's simple and iterative. By nature these days, it needs to be experimental, and you need to be able to track progress as you go. The second important thing is it's focused on use cases with business impact. There's no sense in adopting something that doesn't have tangible business impact and create business value. And again, coming back to the point that you need to have this people-centered support and approach and adoption to the adoption activities over time. Assuming you do that, you'll achieve a level of adoption maturity and business value faster than those that don't make an attempt around this. And just very quickly to go through that iterative approach, it's really just about identifying the key use cases you want to go after. You can't boil the ocean and do everything at once, so chunk it, batch it. But in every stage, create a vision for what you want to achieve at that stage with the use cases that you're targeting, execute on them, and then measure, evaluate, and use that for your new cycle. And you can either correct activities that you did in the previous cycle or target completely new use cases. And again, this is the assumption is that you'll over time progress towards your transformation goals. And again, I make the point that you can use tools like Viva Goals to track your progress along the way. In terms of transformation success rates, again, just endorsing the point that and this comes from McKinsey and Company and a global survey on transformation, that when an organization provides tools and support to employees in making behavior changes that were part of the transformation, you're 3.8 times likelier to be successful than when you don't. And when managers provide opportunities for employees to apply what they've learned from the transformation in their jobs, then you're 1.9 times more likely to succeed. So super important proof points that I just wanted to add. This is just about journey mapping. Again, this is a roadmap, an AI strategy roadmap that Microsoft created. You can plot your own journey, as I point out at the bottom, aligned to your own goals. There's just some data points here about these different stages that are quite interesting. I've linked to the article where you get more detail on this journey. I'll put that all in the video. But the point is to have a view of the journey and the different stages of the journey and know where you're tracking along in that journey. That's all I wanted to say about this. Are the right partners at the table? These are the stakeholders I'm talking about. And of course, with AI transformations, the technology division is going to be involved, and the CIO will probably take a role in that. And the focus is typically around technology enablement, governance, and security. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but in essence, that. The important other partners to think about are especially in human-centered transformation efforts for AI, is the CHRO. The HR department is more and more becoming the department that curates or they employ experienced custodians. They're the culture makers, and they need to be involved for that reason. And they also often take a role in the learning and development function in the organization. So for those reasons, they should be involved. Corporate or internal comms are the amplifiers of change and should be involved in sitting at the table. And then leadership, fundamentally, sponsors from the business outside of these horizontal functions that are responsible or that are helping drive the transformation necessary. And often the higher the better, executives. And then a good program management approach, coming back to the points I was making earlier. Just to highlight again the importance of effective sponsors and how it directly correlates to transformation success. And this comes from research that was done by ProSci, a well-known change management practitioner, and they point to effective sponsorship helping to drive and exceed objectives for transformation or change programs. So super important. This is quite a busy slide, so I'm just going to highlight with a few of the points. We're not going to go through all of them, but basically this is just about business impact and prioritizing areas of the business, use cases where this is an example of an e-commerce division at a large FMCG company. So we're not looking at generic use cases of use of things like Copilot for M365. You're thinking very specifically about what are the drivers of the business that you need to be thinking about. So this first part here, and in this example, it's reduced. So, for example, if you think about a company in an e-commerce division of a large FMCG company, as I've stated, you're trying to optimize operations, reduce costs, and transform e-commerce outcomes. And one of the things you do is rely on partners for analysis of data, e-commerce data, let's say. And so what you want to do is see if AI can help you reduce reliance on partner analysis and the costs of that partner. So that's the first thing. That's a driver. Then, you want to do some experimentation. So you want to look at some Copilot analysis. Let's say you've got an Excel data sheet with a whole bunch of data that typically the partner would analyze and come back to you with some recommendations. You take that, use Copilot, and compare that to some of the analysis you get back from the partner. So you're using things like Copilot in Excel, querying, customer data, e-commerce queries, let's say on Target, for example. The other thing to add in this little exercise, and again, this comes from a business outcome template that is available, another one created by Microsoft. You can retrofit it. You'll see I've added the prompt column. So what are the kinds of prompts you're using? And these are really actionable, tangible prompts that are helping you analyze data. And I'll come back to prompts and good prompting and prompt engineering, in other words. So the point is to track what you're using to help you achieve the. And so this is basically covered in this section over here. And then also don't forget about the adoption activities. Like if this is something you've identified with a small team, how can you scale it to the rest of the organization? And that's where adoption activities come into play. So I won't go into the others. Hopefully you just get the point. Have a template for driving business outcomes and accelerating those business outcomes. So let me move on to the next one. Just coming back to that prompt engineering, and the point is, prompting, can be is often spoken about as just a uh, something generic, and the point here I'm trying to make is how can you be tangible in your approach to prompting that is business focused, or focused on better business impact. So all I'm saying here with the reverse engineering approach is that start with a business need and scenario, and actually use AI to help you with defining better prompts. So you could prompt, for example, Copilot, that you want to reverse prompt engineer. That's the first order of business for AI. Then you want to describe a business need and scenario from which you want to derive a good prompt. Explain that you want the best prompt for this scenario. Ask any clarifying questions to ensure the scenario is clear to AI. And then ask for the best prompt to be created. And then use that prompt to get the best responses. So use AI to make the best use of AI is what I'm trying to say here. Ultimately getting to any clarifying questions on that response. And then once you've done that, capture that response and share it widely in the business.